Hi, Barry from Kerfton. Today I'm here with Nick and Liv. They've just been on an awesome trip for about 3.5 months up the east coast of Australia with a Kerfton Camper trailer, and today they're going to tell us a little bit about that. So Nick, you're an engineer.
I am.
But you're working in strategic management.
Yeah, something like that.
And Liv is an artist.
Yep.
So, 3.5 months. So how many days was that roughly, do you know, that you slept in a Kerfton?
112 days overall.
112 days.
112 days straight.
Fantastic. And how many kilometres, do you know?
19,300.
Oh
19,000 kilometres.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So can you describe where you actually went on the trip?
Yeah, absolutely. So in a broad brush, we did we did all the way up the east coast, across the top to Darwin and down through the centre. That was over 3 months, roughly a month in each state. So we started in Melbourne and we went straight up onto the Murray at Tocumwal. So we camped there on the beach, on the banks of the Murray for a few nights just to get set up and familiarise ourselves with the camper. And then we chased the Murray across, had a couple of nights in Lake Hume and in Khancoban, which was sensationally beautiful at the mouth of the Murray River scheme. Had a few swims in the outflow of the Snowy River scheme at 3 or 4 degrees in water. And then up and over Kosciuszko. The first time we really put the Kerfton through its paces was at a place called Groggin, which had a series of water crossings there. You might have seen if you were following us on Instagram. Actually Liv's first time driving through water, which was pretty exciting.
Fantastic.
First river crossing and first time towing a trailer. So very impressive. Yes.
And with some really steep actual rock climb outs on the far side of it there, which she did a great job on. And
It's pretty easy.
From Kosciuszko, we crossed over into Cooma, which is a barren, treeless plain. It's quite a remarkable kind of change in scenery as you drop over. There's not a tree in sight for about 100 k's, and then we came out to Bermagui, just one of the ultimate spots on the southeast coast. One of the people that we followed on Instagram called Terrain One puts up secret campsites along the way.
Okay.
And one of our favourites was here in Narooma, about 50 k's inland of Narooma. We down probably 40 or 50 k's of pretty tight gravel road. We found an intersection of a creek and a river, and we drove actually down through the creek for probably 300 or 400 metres, and then we were camped. We didn't see anyone for 3 days, and that was really probably the first time we appreciated the quality of the camper, allowing us to just be in the middle of nowhere and in relative comfort.
Yeah, it was one of the highlights, I think, of the trip was that secluded riverbed, I think.
And
Fantastic.
we do have some amazing photos of Liv having set up her easel painting on the banks of the river in this place, which if you have a look at our Instagram, you'll be able to see, and perhaps it'll get shown in the video. Yeah. So from Narooma, we chased our way up through the coast. The next real standout was Jervis Bay, where we were just in the normal campground. And apart from some tourists playing some pretty loud music at 11 p.m. at night, which was a bit disconcerting, we had a lovely few days there before we chased pretty rapidly up the coast through Gerringong and Kiama. A really beautiful coastal walk that was there. Kind of felt like you were on the cliffs of Dover, a really interesting kind of part of the country. A couple of days in Sydney, catching up with family and friends and other things.
Yep.
Did we stay? We were in the trailer? Or no, that was probably we had a night.
Not in Sydney.
Couple of nights indoors.
Yep.
The interesting thing we found both in Sydney and again in Noosa, when we actually stayed in housing, we were actually pining to be back in the camper, which was
fantastic. Under canvas.
Back under canvas, yeah. And we've been back for nearly 2 or 3 months, and even last night we were saying, geez, we wouldn't mind being back in the Kerfton, rather than being in the house. So from Sydney, we came inland through into Katoomba and Lithgow and kind of through, did a loop out around Penrith into the Blue Mountains before returning to the coast at Newcastle onto Stockton Beach, which was the first time we'd put the Kerfton on the sand and also the Land Cruiser. I think we demonstrated our inexperience with sand driving when we tried to get some great drone footage. We sent the drone up ahead of the car, but didn't give ourselves quite enough of a run up. So we got 90% of the way up the dune before we got stuck, and then trying to reverse backwards down the dune without losing the trailer and jackknifing. But we did get stuck there and have to pull the maxi tracks out to recover it. Ended up at about 10 psi on. So pretty
and then
low.
drove out.
And then drove out. Yeah.
It was an ambitious hill. We could have avoided that, I think.
Yeah.
And by
Having
we,
fun.
I mean Nick. Could have.
Testing it out.
Yeah. We wanted to put the trailer and the car through its paces. And there were it was a really beautiful long beach where you can camp all the way along the beach. We were actually, I think, the only people that were there that night.
And that was the first beach drive we did with the camper, I think. That was amazing.
Then from here, we kind of came up through Nelson's Bay and into Seal Rocks, where we hit some kind of bad weather. And as often can happen with camping, like when it rains a lot, we found ourselves in an exposed campsite that had no permanent shelter. In a real sign of stupidity, we actually forgot we had an awning on the car as well as on the trailer, so we didn't pull that out. And Liv was working all day from inside the trailer, and I was working all day from inside the car, and we just got a bit of cabin fever and wanted to get out. So the next day we actually hot-footed it 500 k's north to Yamba, so we did skip over a lot of this part of the coast. But fortunately, after having been in Yamba for a couple of days and tuning back into the news, we realised that this whole part of New South Wales was flooded. So we would have got stuck in that part of the coast anyway. So we found ourselves pretty fortunate, I guess, to have escaped to that. And most of the campgrounds that we were going to visit, if you were in there, you couldn't get out because the coastal section was kind of cut off. So we got a bit lucky there. From there, we hit some of the highlights, Yamba into Ballina, and we had a week in Byron. Not exactly roughing it. There's a really beautiful campground on the beach set in amongst the trees on the end of Clark's Beach. I'd been to Byron every year for 15 years and never knew the campground was there. That's how well hidden it is. And Byron, even though it's been a lot more developed, still a really beautiful place, and in a bit more luxury. From there, we came up through to Noosa, took a couple of work days in Brisbane. In Noosa, that was really the only time we were out of the trailer. We had 6 days in an apartment in Noosa that was gifted to us before, and getting set up to go out to Hervey Bay and out to K'gari, Fraser Island. And that was the first time we had others in the trailer. So my 7-year-old mother and my 5-year-old niece came and flew up to Hervey Bay and joined us, which was really nice to have some company in the trailer, and the first time that we'd had four of us.
People in the trailer, which was amazing. Like, we did not feel too... Luckily, the weather was great, so we could, explore K'gari, Fraser Island. But, it didn't feel too squished, which I was surprised by.
Yeah, that's right. So we put Mum and Frankie in the double bed, and then Liv and I shared this in the single bed pods, and we're fully grown adults, and that was fine. So that was great, and to have the table, like the pull out table with the chairs that could fit the family and everything else, and we had plenty of food in the fridges, and everything else we didn't need to restock.
Restocking in Fraser Island costs an arm and a leg, so that was something we wanted to avoid, and it was great. We were fine.
One of the things that surprised us about the trip is, before we left, you're thinking you're going to pay, $3 a litre kind of everywhere. Really, Fraser Island was probably one of the only places where we hit expensive fuel. The 90% of our fill-ups around Australia were under $2 a litre, which I think really had an effect on the cost effectiveness of the trip. So Fraser Island...
So how far did you get on Fraser? How far north did you go?
So we got all the way to essentially as far as you can go. So I'm pretty sure that's Orchid Beach. There's you drive all the way up the 60 k's of beach on the east coast.
You can go a bit further through Ngala Rocks. I think you can get a bit further than that.
So we cut.
But Orchard Beach is already a fair way. There's a store or a post office there, I think.
That's right, and then you cut across the back of the island, which is often where it's really boggy.
Right.
And we got through there fine. We did see some other people get stuck.
Yep. So that's the crossing at Indian Head.
Yes, that's
I think,
right.
where lots of people get stuck.
Yeah.
That's right. And once again, Liv was behind the wheel and she managed to get straight through. I think we were running kind of, not massively low pressures, 16, 18 PSI, so still reasonably well inflated, and running through the sand tracks there. Actually, Liv and I had a day before the other two had joined us where we kind of did all the inland tracks up some really steep, probably 20, 25 degree slope with wooden slats and stuff. And, I think one of the really nice things, that was probably the first time we had genuine four-wheel driving opportunities. And so I was pretty keen to, go four-wheel driving. And the benefit with the Kerfton was that if the Land Cruiser got through it, then you knew that the Kerfton would get through it. And that was, having towed boats and trailers a lot in my life, you're always more worried about the thing behind you. But the Kerfton just handled it with such ease. It was like, if I can get the car through here, as long as I swing wide enough, then the Kerfton will be fine. And that was just made it really nice and easy to just enjoy the driving. So we had 4 nights, 5 nights.
4 nights, sorry. 4 nights in Kigari.
Yeah, 4 nights in Kigari, and then we came in on the. So we took the barge at Skip Point from the south, and then took the barge on the west coast across to Hervey Bay.
Oh right, okay.
So ended up through the Kingfisher Resort and out through here, and then into Hervey Bay for a night, which was missable, and then through Bundaberg. Of course, we stopped at the distillery as we all do. Yep, we're in Queensland, so Spice Rum was the order of the day, and of course we got some photos of the two icons of Australia, the Kerfton and the Bundaberg, the big Bundaberg distillery. Got to make sure that there's some good shots there. And then from there, where are we? So Bundaberg. Okay, so 1770. Actually, the T-shirt I'm wearing here today is from 1770. In terms of
fantastic
highlights, one of the highlights actually.
Right.
Really just
Best water we've ever seen, I think.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
That's right. So probably the clearest water we had and the nicest water out on the coast there. And we stayed on a hilltop reserve, a little eco camping ground with grass trees and other things. And a lot of the time they wouldn't let caravans up there because you couldn't get up. But when we showed them this, they were like, "No, you guys will be fine. Up you go." And that was pretty steep up there. Where are we? So we had a couple of days in 1770?
Yeah, I think 3 nights there.
But really good coffee. We're from Melbourne. We love good coffee. I bought the T-shirt from the coffee place. So if you get a chance, what was it called? 1770 Coffee Co. on the way in. You can hit that up. Yeah. And then from there, we came inland. We kind of we jumped through this section through Gladstone and Rockhampton pretty quickly. And then we ended up, up in here, up towards Cape Palmerston was a
there was a free camp spot on the beach that we found. So if anyone's traveling, download WikiCamps and you'll be able to find it. And it was also one of the highlights. And because you're driving on the beach, so it's handy to have the clearance that the Kerfton has as well.
That was the campground there was a little cutout on a cutout in the scrub along a beach that was probably 2 or 3 k's long, and just that was the first time we had the hammock and the Kerfton set up properly. Then we had the awning out and just this deserted stretch of beach, and it was just we only stumbled on it by accident because the next night was Townsville. Yeah. We stayed in the Bunnings car park in Townsville, probably a highlight. So there's a BP in Townsville that offers free overnight camping, and you're on a highway. It's shocking. On the side of a highway at a service station, and we were looking at the Bunnings warehouse wall. But once again, the Kerfton, it drew a few views in there because of how it unfolds, and but it was as comfortable there as any of the lovely places that we saw. Okay, Townsville. Okay, so then out to Magnetic Island. So we did put the caravan and the car on the barge. There's actually not much camping available on Magnetic Island. You're not allowed to free camp anywhere. There's no camping grounds.
Right.
So we're on private property through
Hip Camp.
Yeah. And they had 5 or 6 spaces. Was quite an expensive experience. So that was like $500 to get the car and the return to get both of them out there. So we went and spent 8 days there to make sure that we got value for money. But just an absolute gem of an island. Well, enough infrastructure, well set up, good bars and cafes and things if you want to go out and have a nice meal, and just beautiful beaches. You can walk, go and swim out, from snorkeling from any of the beaches and everything else. So a really beautiful, one of the big highlights from there. And then we were at Hinchinbrook, at the edge of Hinchinbrook Island, considering to go out onto Hinchinbrook. Obviously you can't take cars, but the weather had kind of closed in, and all the Cardwell spa pools and some of the areas out the back here. So we wound out through Hervey River and things, and kind of chased up and down a few free camps there, but a lot of post the cyclone, a lot of the infrastructure, there's some famous like rock sliding water pool, the Cardwell spa pools, and a few other things that were there that were closed just because of there'd been a lot of erosion and other things. We actually stopped at remember the farmer?
Yeah, a very wholesome farmer who sells fresh fruit and veg on the side of the road. And he had a beautiful, quite a sad story about, all the cyclone damage and how the community comes together in times of need. And so that's how he started up this kind of little side hustle on the side of the road.
And he said they were the worst floods they'd seen there in the 60 years that he'd been on that farm. Okay, so where are we? Cardwell. So we came into Cairns. We took the Kuranda Scenic Railway for an engineer, steam train and things. It was a must do. I got my train fixed. So once we had that sorted, up through to Port Douglas, where we just were in a caravan park there. Primary reason was to get out on the reef and do some diving and some snorkeling. And then we went up through across the Daintree and into Cape Tribulation, which is just sensational. Really famous. So we looked at the Coober Track.
Yes.
And we were interested to do it because we wanted to really try and push the four-wheel driving on the trip. The kind of status reports on the Coober Track at that stage were pretty bad, and because it's very muddy or very clayey, as soon as it gets wet, you can't move on the track. So we didn't get a chance to do the Coober Track, but there is also another little section of coast track called I'm gonna forget the name of it, but there's a famous kind of four-wheel driving part, and that was probably some of the steepest road that we traversed. I think nearly up to 30 degrees of rise and fall in the road.
I've done the Coober Track and I didn't think it was that difficult.
Right, okay.
But it was dry weather.
Yeah.
So, and I think I'm sure you'd get through with the trailer if it was dry.
Oh, I'm sure, I think that's right. And they say as soon as it rains, so the clay just turns it into a skid pan. We blew our first tyre up here. First and only tyre for the trip on the car. When we put a steel concrete bolt, a bolt they used for threading into concrete, there was probably, 120 mils long. That went all the way through the tyre and actually hit the rim. That's how deep into the tyre it went. And that was the first and only time we blew a tyre on the whole trip.
That was on the car though, not on the Kerfton.
Yeah, on the trailer.
Yeah, that's right. So then we topped out. So we had talked about Cape York and other things. Interestingly, a lot of the people, including Barry here, probably advised us about not doing it. And especially because it's...
Cape York's lovely and there's some amazing places there, but it can also get really busy, is what I've found.
And it added a bit of time to our trip, which there were so many other things we wanted to do as well.
We were also in this section around the school holidays, or the June school holidays. So this is, the time where it's really busy up there. And so, we decided to come back down and cut across. So then from Cairns, we came down through Mareeba and Dimboola, and this was the first kind of real serious kind of gravel, extended gravel roads. And, people talk about the conditions of the roads being bad, but overall, we actually found the roads all the way through this section to be pretty good. So we kind of chased down through through Atherton and Mount Garnet, and these were the first places you had to really start thinking about fuel and where you would get fuel. And then into Georgetown, Ainsley, Forsyth. We did this little loop around here and some really beautiful places there. And then back onto the main Gulf Road through Croydon and into Normanton.
Yes.
And that was camping on the banks of the Normanton River. There's a beautiful free camp there. Actually, I was on the phone in a work meeting and I was looking at the river. We were, where the Kerfton was set up, we were probably 6 feet, maybe 6 or 8 feet above the river where the bank was pretty steep. And then I'm on the phone to somebody and there's 2 crocodiles just end up having a fight right in front of me. And I'm trying to describe this crocodile fight to people that who were sitting in Melbourne on a Teams call. So.
And did you go on the train bus from Normanton?
No, what's that?
No, you haven't heard about it?
No.
What's it?
So there's a train line runs out through here somewhere, and it's essentially a bus on train tracks.
Oh my God, Nick, you
And the
would've watched.
driver drives it like a bus.
Combo of your favourite things.
Bus and a train.
Bus and a train.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed that. That's a pity.
Bugger, we'll have to go back.
We missed that.
Yeah.
So then from Normanton and things, we came across these, the main roads here. This is where the HEMA maps were really useful.
Right.
So we took a physical atlas, for people of our generation, that's rare, but my mother gave it to me as a Christmas present, and through this section it was amazing for really trying to figure out the best ways to go.
And the funnest tracks as well were the HEMA tracks, because otherwise you're just on a boring road. You kind of want the fun ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we came through Burketown down to Gregory, and
Gregory Gorge was amazing. The water there was beautiful. And that little cafe, what was...
Murray's Cafe.
Murray's Cafe.
Right.
If anyone ever goes there, you have to go to see Murray. He's so nice.
the best cafe in the Gulf. It was
That's what they say.
was what they said. And then we came across to Lawn Hill Gorge. Now, the gorge was closed from access, but if you stayed in... Do you remember the name of the place?
Eden or...
Something
Edna?
like that.
Something like that.
Just near Lawn Hill.
Yeah.
So there's the Lawn Hill Gorge, and then adjacent to that there's a big station area, which is really beautiful. There's a campground up the top, but then on the river it's just all spread out through the trees, and you kind of free camp in that area. And then you can jump in a kayak along the river, traverse a few rapids and into the gorge. That's where we lost the first drone and the Polaroid and Liv's phone.
Yeah.
So that was an expensive day camping, but it was also the last day of the tax year, so we just quickly bought some more things when we got back. Might have claimed those as a business expense.
No,
So,
cut that out.
yeah. Hope the ATO is not watching. Okay, so Lawn Hill. Okay, so now at Lawn Hill, HEMA shows a track that's running from Lawn Hill directly up to hit this kind of the main road, the main highway, the number one, the Capricorn Highway, or the Pacific Highway. It looks like that the owners had converted that into a private road, even though it was public, so you couldn't get through. So then we started looking for tracks through this way to really, because otherwise it was a 300 or 400k round loop, and we wanted to cut all that out. So we started. There was a HEMA track that was marked, and it just looked like a miner's trail, and we're like, this will be fine. We went down 2 to begin with that weren't actually the track, and then we finally got on the track and probably traversed, 25 or 30 k's down the track, losing it, gaining it, losing it, gaining it, losing it, gaining it. Windows are down. All of a sudden we can smell diesel, and we're going, geez, because the track was pretty rough, and we thought, have we smashed the fuel tank underneath? Is it leaking? And we get out of the car, and one of the jerry cans is leaking on the roof.
Which was actually a good result, considering the alternative.
Pouring diesel all over the car. So we got out, cleaned that up. Actually, the shower on the Kerfton was great there, because we used that to fill buckets and everything else, and we could spray the back of the car from there to get the diesel off, which is, I suppose, an unintended benefit. We actually turned the diesel heater on as well to use hot water to help with the diesel there. And then we probably got another 10k. So we're in. If Barry zooms in on this later, we're probably halfway across, and then we lost the track completely.
Right.
one of the downsides of having a trailer on the back is you can't immediately turn around and do a U-turn because it was quite scrubby. By the time we actually were able to turn around, we'd lost the track.
Right.
And we spent probably
an hour to an hour and a half
right.
lost.
a tense hour,
Right.
an hour and a half in the middle of nowhere,
Yes.
off the track in a farmer's
okay.
paddock, thinking, shit, this is actually, could be bad. Fortunately, like with the trailer, we had full water, full diesel, lots of food.
Of course.
So, just
but
stop.
you start to realise how alone you are.
And how small and
that's right.
insignificant you are.
And then you realise how your, how your emotions start to kick in.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the
And if
right
you
mind
panic,
frame, it's you don't want to panic.
No, yeah.
So fortunately, we found the track.
Yeah,
and then we went, screw it, this track, it had been sporadic, on and off, and we were
It
probably...
was too tense for us to deal with anymore.
We were probably only halfway, so we just powered it back down the track and then still ended up doing the big loop.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a bit of a wasted day, but that's what happens. And then we kept traversing up through here, a couple of stops along this road, and actually coming into Borroloola was the time we saw a pretty bad caravan accident. So a guy driving a Nissan Patrol towing a really big caravan, he's actually the wheel hub sheared in half, and he sent the wheel his rear left wheel flying off into the bush at about 70 k's an hour.
On the car or on the caravan?
On the car, the back left, car. And then he ended up managing to kind of flick the car out of the way of an oncoming tree, but in doing that, the trailer actually hit the tree and peeled open. So, look, they were all fine and they'd been there for 24 hours. We'd actually met them back in Gregory and chatted to them while they were there. So we stopped and had a chat to them, and they, tow trucks turned up while we were there and they were back on their way. But, it was...
scary for them.
And then up to Borroloola and out to King Ash Bay. I think the summary from there was, if you don't have a boat, don't go.
You can rent a boat and go fishing, which is the highlight of King Ash Bay, but we didn't do that, so there wasn't much for us to do there. But yeah, fishing, if you like that, go to King Ash Bay.
Couple of nights in King Ash Bay, including a work day, and then we tracked along out through to Cape Crawford. We were doing the thing you shouldn't be doing, which is, moving at high speed at dusk. So at 8:30 at night on that night, we hit our first and only kangaroo, which was a glancing blow on the front of the car.
Big or?
Probably medium size.
Okay.
And then we came across to Daly Waters, which was just, what an icon of a place. And I think there's a couple of shots of different Kerftons that have passed through Daly Waters, including ours. I think you've been there, Barry.
I've been there certainly. Yeah, iconic, shot in front of the pub
with the bougainvillea.
With the bougainvillea. I was going to say with a plant, but no, the bougainvillea certainly.
And Tim or whoever the owner is, who's driving around on his little scooter with the long horns on the front. It's just like a pretty iconic Australian scene. So we only stopped there for a coffee on the way through because we were racing up to up here somewhere. We were racing up through Mataranka, quick stop at the thermal springs. Like everyone else, school holidays. So and then up to Catherine to restock and refuel, and out to Edith Falls for the weekend. So we have lots of friends living in Darwin, and they came down and we had a weekend in Edith Falls, just in the caravan park there.
Yeah, we did the short walk. I think it's like a 4K walk to the waterfall, the Edith Falls. That was beautiful.
Sensational, this is just a stunning part of Australia. So then we left Edith Falls and we tracked up into Kakadu. Some of them were still closed, so Gunlom was closed, but some of the other places there were. We got out to Cahill's Crossing, and always watched the crazy man standing on Cahill's Crossing fishing for barramundi with the crocodiles in the water. We had tried to apply for a permit to cross into Arnhem Land, but we didn't get the permit through in time, so we chose not to cross. And then we went to Jabiru, and then we actually found and Coinda, the Yellow Water Cruise, and
Of course, yes.
some really great like little campgrounds there. The roads are pretty well maintained in Kakadu because it's such a tourist destination. But then we found the old Jim Jim Road going from Coinda to Darwin, which cuts out the corner to Jabiru.
Yep.
And this was where we hit some probably unplanned, really interesting fall driving.
Yeah, okay.
One of the times where we actually put the bonnet of the Land Cruiser underwater, which people might have seen, and it was one of those ones where you look at it and it looks okay, and then as you drop, we're skirting around the edge, and the front of the car, we actually have a video of it. Liv's hanging out the window, filming it, and the bonnet goes under, and then your only option left is just to plant your foot and power through. We didn't have. We could stop, but we just chose to hammer through. Fortunately, we hit the bonnet like pretty quickly and rose out. But
no, look, bonnet level on a Land Cruiser is getting fairly deep.
Yes,
it was a shock.
I'll pull up the footage.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can find it. But yes, I think you reacted.
I reacted strongly at that point.
But I mean, the vehicle went in and out the other side, and so did the trailer.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was a fun road. Apart from that part, it was a fun road to drive.
Right.
So. Yeah, recommend.
As you get further along, you actually are skirting an army base, so the road really kind of sorts itself out and is pretty well maintained. But the first probably 50, 60 Ks, lots of crossing, like river crossings and other things. Fortunately, Liv was hanging halfway out the car when we went underwater because we were trying to get footage of that, both of the car and the trailer following us. I think fortunately, the car goes through, you like, cool, the trailer's going to be fine. And especially, our Land Cruiser stock Sahara hasn't been lifted or anything else, so if you get through it there, the Kerfton was probably another 3 inches higher, so you're not worried about leaking through any of the doors or even getting anywhere near where water's going to overwhelm it.
Well, I suspect that the doors probably did go under on the trailer.
Yes,
but they should keep the water out anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, where are we? So then, around into Darwin, couple of nights in Darwin. And then we came back down through Adelaide River and we did want to get to Litchfield, but fortunately at this stage there's a really famous hike out of Katherine Gorge called the Jatbula Trail, and we had one of the bucket list activities for the trip was to do some overnight hiking, and we'd missed the chance to do it down here in Kosciuszko because we were meeting friends on either side and we couldn't get the schedule to work. And so Jatbula sells out 6 months in advance, very hard to get into. They only let 10 people
10 permits per day or something like that. Okay. So really hard to get, especially during the dry. So we didn't think we'd be able to do that, but we got the permits, so we could do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
On a buy-sell swap, licensing, and so we got that. So we, Litchfield had some great things in there, especially down the bottom, like Surprise Creek, I think it is called. And the Reynolds Track. I was really keen to do that, but it was also probably on the edge of what the Land Cruiser could do because we didn't have a snorkel. Right. And so you can probably do 60 centimetres maybe without a snorkel, and I think the river was a kind of 70, 75. So probably fortunate that we missed it. So Katherine, that was the first time we left the Kerfton, all locked up in the Katherine Gorge caravan park, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. We deployed the solar onto the roof. So we had the solar on the roof of the car, the solar panels that then connected to the trailer to keep the trailer charged, and all of that, which worked pretty well. And then we came, so 5 days out in the Jatbula Trail. For anyone who's, keen on camping or getting out into nature, just absolutely
100% do it.
Yeah.
And it's not too hard that it's unachievable, but it's hard enough for it to feel like you've achieved something, if that makes sense.
So kind of 60 Ks over 5 days, you're doing 10 Ks at 10 to 12 Ks a day, get out at 7 or 8, you're done at 10 or 11, and then you're just out in the wilderness in these, and every spot has water, and it's just, it was sensational. Liv and I used to try and walk faster than everyone else, so we'd just have this hour by ourselves in paradise, which was, unreal. Liv actually painted like little A4 cards of each spot, which is a beautiful memento of our time. So then we're heading south. So now we're on our way back home.
On your way back home, yes.
We were turned for home, and we came. So we kind of sped through elements of this. We had a couple of nights and a work day in Daly Waters. Iconic.
Again, right? Okay.
Again, because we only really stopped for a quick coffee on the way up, so we had 2 nights there, and kind of refueled and recharged after having been on foot for 5-6 days. A work day there, and then we came down through. Left Daly was down to Tana Creek and into Devil's Marbles, which is beautiful. I mean, like a beautiful, little iconic thing. But shit, it got cold quick.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the temperature dropped by, it was 10 degrees maybe? So, because we kind of punched it down there, we were like a bit shocked by
the change. Once you got away from the coast.
Yeah.
Once
and it gets, so did you camp at Devil's Marbles?
Yeah.
But it gets pretty busy there as well, the campground.
Well, I think it was okay. Oh, no, it was actually quite busy, but they have the overflow section.
Right.
So that was all right.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, stunning landscape there. Actually, part of the painting is
the Devil's
Marbles. Yeah.
Well, I'll pop up a picture of that too.
So for those of you who don't know, Liv has actually painted the Kerfton, like a little memento of our trip, which we've donated to Kerfton. Barry can put it up on the video. Yeah, a shot of the Land Cruiser and the Kerfton out in the wilderness, inspired by the places we went.
Yeah.
Okay, so Devil's Marbles, and then through here we chased it down to Alice. There's not a huge amount, there's small interesting things along the way through the main highway, but we were meeting friends in Alice Springs, so we went and did that. Came out through the West McDonald's Ranges, Simpsons Gap, and out through here, which was, pretty beautiful. Back into Alice. What did we had something on in Alice?
I don't remember. We were seeing someone.
Yes.
Yeah, a friend in Alice. And then we came back out again.
Yeah, through the West Max, that was really beautiful. We jumped onto a section of the Larapinta Trail by foot.
Yes.
It was pretty steep, a lot steeper than Jatbula had been.
Yeah.
And actually in Alice we bought some artwork, which is now hanging on the wall of at home, 2 Aboriginal pieces side by side,
lovely.
which is, it's really nice actually to just have a memento like that on the wall. And then from Alice, one of your recommendations actually, Barry, was to go to Finke Gorge and the Finke Gorge track, and that was the second time we got stuck.
Right.
Entering into Finke Gorge, it was kind of late in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, and so we were kind of racing the sun a little bit.
From the north.
From the north, so Alice through to Hermansburg, and just before Hermansburg, you jump off
down south, on
the road into Finke Gorge, and then we hit. It had kind of been gravel and other things, and then we hit sand. And loads of
lowered the tyres.
Right.
I don't think.
Weren't expecting it.
No,
and it was only it was 150 metres of sand, and it turned back to gravel again, and so we got 20 foot into that and sank.
And stopped.
And then fortunately for us, there was a group there, and this guy, one of the guys who had another Land Cruiser, he was very experienced in recovery. We tried to dig ourselves out, and then he just ended up coming back and pulling us out because we were losing the light at that stage. And so we drove quite a long way into Finke Gorge, and then pulled up.
It's fabulous. It's
it's amazing.
It is amazing when you're in the middle of that gorge and the rocks either side. And then you camped at Boggy Creek.
No, actually, just short. Well, because you drive in there and you don't know where Boggy Hole is.
Yeah, okay.
And it's it's one of those things that goes as 20 k's, but you're doing 5 k's. You really have no perception of how deep you're into the thing. So because we were racing the fading light, we actually ended up at what we thought was kind of maybe Boggy Hole. We didn't know how well signed it would be. And so we just ended up on the river, and we were there.
It was like a riverbank.
2 nights, 3 nights?
Yeah, I think 3.
3. Doing some, camping on the fire and stuff. And some work there, and I mean that was beautiful. And then coming out of Boggy Hole to the south was where some proper forward driving, some really lots of rocks on the track and other things, and some interesting river crossings as well. I think we got some great shots of the Kerfton, the Land Cruiser, against the kind of iconic scenery of the Finke Gorge.
Look, it's beautiful through there.
Yeah,
it is. That was great.
I don't remember it being full drive much on the way out, but
maybe you're a better full driver than I am, Barry. We'll leave that there. And then, okay, so we exited out to the south and then out to Kings Canyon.
Of course.
And probably one of the best free campsites we found.
Right.
So go through Kings Canyon, through the Discovery Park Centre or whatever it is, and then probably another 20 Ks along that road. You kind of get off the sealed road onto the dirt, and then there's a series of switchbacks, and you climb up onto the top of an escarpment. And we had the Kerfton on the edge of a 60-metre drop off the cliff, looking out back over Kings Canyon. We got some sensational footage there. It was just one of the and free campsite at the back of a little lookout. It was another one that came through that Terrain One app, but it is just it's probably on Wikicamps too.
It's there too.
Some very high winds there. At one point we did, because the trailer wasn't connected to the car, thought we might get blown off the cliff. I think 3 times that night I got up to wedge the tyres or put the chains around the car. I just couldn't be bothered actually getting into the car to move it to actually physically connect it. But really pretty windy there, but didn't have any issues with the canvas held up, all the spreaders and everything stayed in. And it all was pretty good. So from Kings Canyon, just chased around out to Uluru. First time for me was you had been before? Had you?
No, never. First time for both of us, I think.
So just stayed in the dust bowl of the caravan park.
Yes, out the back of the resort.
In the overflow.
Yes.
But was really kind of blown away by it. You never know. It's obviously an iconic landmark, but with things that are so heavily marketed, you don't know whether the reality is going to be the same. But it was stunning. So we did a day at Uluru and a day at Katajuda.
Yes. Which is, I think, even more spectacular than the rock itself.
Yeah, I think that's right. Lots of wild camels out through this section, and then from there we hot-footed it all the way back to the Stuart Highway and down to Coober Pedy because we were starting to run out of time, and we were booked back into Sydney for the city to surf. So this is probably the part where we started really opening up the distance on a. And doing big travel days and then stopping for a period of time and then big travel days. So, that's a pretty easy drive down the centre. The Oodnadatta Track in sections like at Marla to Oodnadatta was closed. So we chose to go to Coober Pedy, and then we had a night in Coober Pedy and then ran up the track to Oodnadatta.
Yes.
Had the famous, burger at the Pink Roadhouse.
Yes, of course.
And then we drove down to William Creek. Then when we looked at the map, we realised we did 400 kilometres just to have a burger at the... and we had come off this side road from Coober Pedy to Oodnadatta Track, merged onto the track, and then hit a puddle, probably doing 80 or 90 k's an hour. And the puddles previously had been pretty good, but this was one of those ones that grabs the car.
Yes.
We blanketed the car and the trailer in mud. We actually had to stop because I couldn't get the windscreen clean. It was we knew.
So you do have to be careful. It can catch you unexpectedly, without a doubt.
Overall, though, the track has a reputation for being, rough and pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There'd been a lot of rain.
I think in general, you have to. Some people will describe a track as unbearable and undrivable. And you get there and it's like, well, this is nothing that difficult. So, or conversely as well, you can get the opposite. So it very much depends on the experience of the people giving the assessment of it.
Yes,
So you can't always believe what you hear.
That's right. So down to Oodnadatta, down to Williams Creek.
Flying bus, I think, around there somewhere. You didn't see the bus either? No.
No, we've missed all the buses. The train bus, the flying bus, everything.
Right.
And then my dad had been up here when the last flood was there 15 years ago. They'd flown through William Creek and Birdsville and etc. And he said just amazing. So Liv wasn't a big fan of the small airplanes, I went myself and jumped in a light airplane and Lake Air flooded, 50 years. It's been since it's been this full, and it's incredible to see the scale of it.
Yes, of course.
It's not as interesting as you would think, and because the connection to, I'm going to get this right, Cooper's Creek hadn't connected, a lot of the wildlife hadn't come in yet. So it was just kind of flying out over, a large expanse of water. And we drove, actually without the trailer, we drove out to Halligan's Bay campground, and it's like Mars out there.
Yeah, it's very barren. Yeah.
It was barren, it was windy, and it was pretty boggy on the thing of Lake Eyre, but I'm pretty stunning, pretty amazing to see it. And then from Williams Creek, we chased around through, ran all the way along the Oodnadatta Track. What was that the camel, the place, the camels, the old, it was the old station. Remember we dropped in there and the camel shack. We had coffees and scones and their little...
In Murray.
With the heated, the thermal pool.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what we're talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
It's quite popular.
It's somewhere along
Yes,
this.
I know.
this
It's
road.
about halfway along there.
Curtin Springs.
That could be it, yes.
Yeah, Curtin
and
Springs.
We probably should have stayed there the night. 'Cause it was
Again, can get very busy.
yeah, and it was just such a beautiful
Right.
campsite. But we stopped for a swim in the thermal pool
And
and a coffee and a scone.
the important things.
The important things.
Actually, that's a side note. We did have in the back of the Land Cruiser, we had a proper coffee machine,
Right.
which really powered us through this. One benefit with the Kerfton, because it carries so much power, especially if you're moving on those days, like we would just plug the coffee machine into the inverter on the trailer, and we figured out about for the first half of the trip we were using an extension cord, and so it was a bit of a pain in the ass. And then we realised that if you just sat the coffee machine on the tailgate of the car, you could actually reach the power.
Reach the power outlet
without
in
even the
front
extension cord.
compartment,
But because the Land Cruiser has an inverter in it, but it doesn't. Yeah, the coffee
power
machine
output.
doesn't have the power output, and so the trailer would sort us out. Yeah, which the important. We are from Melbourne. You've got to get your priorities straight. Okay, so where are we? We are here in Marie, and then we came down into Parachilna, sensational little town, and then onto the side of the Flinders Ranges. And we stayed there. That was when we got hailed out. So
Rain, like a 10-minute hailstorm that completely rained us out. It was wild, but it was fine in the end once it stopped.
yeah, that's right. And the Kerfton held up. It was. We probably had. I would say we had an inch of hail on top of the camper, and just bang it off the roof, and it was fine. We did discover at that point we were parked in the lowest point of the ground. So we were in probably like ankle 100 mil deep water, and everywhere else was dry. So we
We moved a little bit.
So we moved pretty quickly after that. Okay, so and then we took there's a geological trail you can drive through the Flinders Ranges, which is like a proper four-wheel driving track. And then there's some really famous photos of from inside the Flinders Ranges looking down and the roads following it. If you look it up, you'll see it. And so we did that road, which was great because we didn't have a huge amount of time here, so we kind of hit the highlights. And then it was a big driving day, so we came down, wound through the towns through here and out to Broken Hill. A couple of days in Broken Hill.
2 nights in Broken Hill. Yeah.
2 nights in Broken Hill. Went out to Silverton, had a look at the Mad Max Museum and all of that. And then this is where we're starting to cover some real ground. So here we were a week away from needing to be in Sydney. So we're approaching the end of the trip, and we kind of decided that we wanted to just spend as much time in one spot. So we were kind of looking at the map and other things, figuring out where to go, and that was where we found the track here in Bathurst, which was it's a famous four-wheel driving track.
Yeah. Now we're not going to be able to remember.
No, I don't know.
You don't know.
I
It starts
haven't
with
done
B, the Bridle Track.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah, okay. And this is probably where we did the most serious downhill descent.
Which it was lucky that it was dark because it was so terrifying, and it was just nice that we couldn't see what we were actually doing because it was the worst.
And who was driving?
Not me.
It was one of those things, a lot of the time, you see warnings and you never know how, lots of people go, don't do that, and you do it and it's fine. This one was like, you shouldn't take a camper trailer there or a caravan there. But a lot of the time, with a camper like the Kerfton, you can kind of ignore those things. So it's up to it. Anyway, we started down this slope, and it was steep, like probably 25 degrees down, and it was probably caught us off guard, and it was late. It was probably 6:30 into dark.
Just one more track at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Before you get to your campsite. Famous last words.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Anyway, we jumped ahead a bit, but we went Broken Hill all the way along through here, a few stops.
Yep.
Lots of goats.
Right.
Surprisingly, like thousands and thousands and thousands of wild goats along the freeway. Fortunately, they seem to be smarter than kangaroos. They stay off the road. And of course, being an engineer, we had to go to parks and have a look at the dish.
At the dish,
big
of course.
dish, yeah, which was a bit underwhelming.
You loved it.
We had a good time. Got the photo, I still haven't watched the dish though coming home, so that's on the list.
Well, now it'll mean something more.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You've been there and seen it. So the Bathurst, the Bridle Track, we stayed at the Root Hog Reserve, which is actually adjacent to the track, so you actually have to cross the river from the track.
Okay.
But you couldn't cross the river because it was middle of winter, so it was pretty deep and running pretty fast.
We came from the other way in, so it's fine.
When we got here, the next day, we took the trailer off the car and then drove the car out to make sure we could actually get out.
Right.
Much less terrifying going up than going down.
Right.
Yeah, which was, we learned that, I guess. And we had, 4 or 5 nights there?
Yeah,
that was
4 nights there.
That was sad because it was like...
It was the last.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The last hurrah.
Yeah.
From Bathurst into Sydney for the City of the Surf, which is a great weekend to be in there. And then we essentially took the Hume back down and we stopped overnight in Jugeong. Had a last hurrah at the pub in Jugeong.
But of course, it all finished when you got to Sydney, really, because you had to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
That's what I find. Avoid the big cities until you're all the way back, because
100%.
it punctuates the journey a bit.
Yeah.
This road from Bathurst to Sydney was just like entering into depression. Like, because all through Western Sydney here, the roads are kind of like 70k semi-highways, and it was just like start, stop, busy. And it was just like the bubble illusion was bursting rapidly at this stage. And then, Sydney to Jugeong one day, and then Jugeong back to Melbourne. And that was it, 112 nights.
Fantastic.
I couldn't recommend it more highly to anyone. Yeah.
And a great description of the trip too.
Oh, thank you.
So, a great summary of a fantastic trip. I think we'll take this opportunity to call this the end of part 1, but we'll come back in part 2 with some questions and answers. Thanks very much for listening.